Dzień dobry Państwu w kawiarni Agere Contra na Chłodnej 2/18. Chyba najbezpieczniejszego dzisiaj miejsca w Polsce, za sprawą naszego gościa. Drodzy Państwo, początek powiem po polsku, zanim przejdę do tego, żebyśmy porozmawiali po angielsku. Przedstawiam Państwu Ilię Ponomariowa, który jest naszym gościem. Możemy przywitać naszego gościa brawami. Mieliśmy mały techniczny problem, ale udało się na szczęście go rozwiązać, także witam Państwa. Wszystko jest już teraz, wszystko jest chyba na miejscu. Drodzy Państwo, nasz gość jest Rosjaninem. To chyba pierwszy Rosjanin, którego gościmy w roli naszego prelegenta, tym bardziej się cieszę. Przedsiębiorca, polityk, fizyk, tak samo jak tata, który jest jednym z najbardziej znanych fizyków rosyjskich na świecie, jądrowych, tak jest, atomowych, także serdecznie cieszymy się z tego powodu. No i Ilia jest osobą, która jest politykiem, ale politykiem takim niebezpiecznym, albo dzisiaj najbezpieczniejszym w naszym kraju, z tego powodu, że jako jeden z niewielu, a właściwie jedyny człowiek, który postawił się w sprawach Krymu, ma odmienne zdanie na temat wojny na Ukrainie, odmienne zdanie na temat relacji geopolitycznych niż te, które panują w Rosji. I z tego powodu również się tu spotkaliśmy. A w Polsce jest częstym gościem wielu spotkań, chociaż takich chyba, które są z publicznością, to jest jedno z pierwszych. Będziemy, drodzy Państwo, rozmawiali w języku angielskim. Ja tu mam również podgląd naszej transmisji. Cieszymy się, że Państwo już są z nami, pomimo małego opóźnienia. Jeżeli Państwo zadadzą jakieś pytania online, to serdecznie zachęcam do tego. Ja spróbuję je przeczytać. Ci, którzy z Państwa są tutaj, to około 40 minut pierwszych będziemy mieli rozmowy, a potem, jeżeli pojawią się pytania, to oczywiście podejdę do Państwa z mikrofonem. Dziękujemy Panom z ochrony, którzy są tutaj razem z nami. Czujemy się dzięki Panom bezpiecznie. Z każdej strony jesteśmy obtoczeni, także bardzo nam z tego powodu miło. Hello, Ilia. It's very nice to see you again in Agere Contra. Here is microphone.
And thanks very much for inviting me. I certify that's the best cafe. Nicest place.
So please tell it again to microphone.
I'm saying that I certify that's the nicest place. You should come and visit.
So the reason that you are here, the main reason is that Karolina from Polsko-Ukraińskie Pojednanie Foundation made for us that meeting, and thank you very much. And also the geopolitical situation all over the world, especially in our part of the world, so Eastern Europe, which is now one of the hottest place, not because of the weather, hottest place on earth. But a lot of people know you in Poland because of your publicity, but when you are invited to our TV or our media. But I have to ask you about your journey as a political figure and activist, because it's quite unique, especially for Russian.
You said we have 1 hour, right?
Yes. So I would like to ask you, what a personal experience have the most significantly shaped your views and actions? What is for you the most important for your value to working?
You would probably hear an unexpected answer here, because what was most important for me was my childhood. Because when I was a kid, and it was 1985, 1986, I was studying at school, and I was a young pioneer, and I was approached by one senior guy who was 2 years older than me, and he said, "We need you as a young pioneer to come and join the district pioneer headquarters." And many years later, it appeared that Gorbachev with his guy who was responsible for Komsomol, Mironenko, actually Ukrainian guy who is right now on our side. Fully, he is quite old right now, but he's still alive. That they started a program to create a new generation of leaders for the renovated Communist Party what Gorbachev was dreaming about. And because of perestroika and everything, there was a very narrow window of true freedom where they really were doing this, education and upbringing of this new type of people. And actually everything that I know about like a real democracy, about the ability of listen to people, to talk to people, to come to a common conclusion, that originates there. Later, this whole thing collapsed, and I personally resigned from this youth communist, like whatever, movement in 1990 when events in the Baltic states began. I was part of the protest against the very brutal events in Lithuania and Vilnius. And was the initiator of disbanding the Komsomol organization in Moscow even. And I was like 16 years old at that time. And then I decided that I moved to business because I always think I need to change the world. And I thought that in this already collapsing Soviet Union, emerging new Russia, being in business, being entrepreneur, not business like privatization, but entrepreneur who creates something new. I am an IT guy. I'm the programmer.
You were 16, you said? You were 16?
Yeah, I started my first company when I was 16. And then I had several startups, IT startups. But then it was 1993 when Yeltsin shot the parliament. And despite that, I at that time supported Yeltsin. Because I think, okay, so that's the new, and these guys are from the past. But at that time, I started to feel like something is wrong. And I actually think that Putinism was born right there in October 1993, when the parliament was shot. And then already, so I spent years in business, but then when Putin already came to power and he started attack on freedom of speech, he disbanded NTV, the most free media station at that time. That's when I made the final decision for myself that I need to go into politics.
It's very interesting because you said in one moment, now he is on our side. Can you tell me which side is our side now when you are see the world? Because anything was so combined and also they are against that it is not so easy to say who is on our side. What does it mean on our side, you mean?
I think it's quite easy to say who is on our side. Those who are fighting with Putin's army is on our side. That's simple as that, I think that everybody who says that we shouldn't do it is on the wrong side. And everybody who says, yes, that's the right thing, we will help and or join in the ranks, this is our side. It's actually way easier than it was before. I think that Putin made it so much clearer in February 2022, because before that, this hybrid war, and then, okay, so nothing is so clear, it has certain merit, we need to make compromises, we need to negotiate. Right now, it's extremely clear. And this Viktor Mironenko guy, despite that he's a very old guy, that's why he's still in Russia. So he is pretty low profile, but from time to time he says something, just tries not to get into jail, but he still keeps to his principles.
So please tell me, for people who are not so very educated in Russian situation, why politics like you or others are against Putin? What he do? I know that the war now in Ukraine, and that's one of the thing. But you were not with him, not like for 4-5 years, but a lot of years. You said. So, why that guy is so dangerous and what he would like to do for world or for Russian.
No, I think that everybody who is against Putin has its own reason why he is against Putin, and it's important what he does, not why he actually got into our ranks. For myself, it started when I recognized that the guy says one thing and does the opposite. And I wouldn't say that I was the first person to actually understand this. Because I remember in 1999, I was at that time working in UKOS oil company, was deputy of Mikhail Khodorkovsky, and we were doing one project which is called, it's an internet called Gazeta.ru. I was vice president who was in charge of all new technologies, including IT and internet. And we were doing this Gazeta.ru, which was the first serious Russian online media. And at that time, internet was tiny, so the number of daily viewers of this Gazeta.ru when we launched it in September 1999, it was like 5,000 person a day, and that was the largest website in Russia. I remember that in August we were sitting with Khodorkovsky, and he was asking me, about this website, and he was so much into details, Okay, so this blue font here is not blue enough. Please make it like a little bit darker, a little bit more blue. This script here is a little bit too small. Let's make it half a size larger. And and the guy was a bloody oligarch, so his minute probably was worth $100. And we were sitting for hours, and it was like literally in very, very minor details. And I got so exhausted, with this idiocy. And I was saying, Mikhail Borisovich, like stop it, it's a website. We can fix it at any given moment, if we will see that this one is not working, that one is not working. Why are you paying so much attention to this? And he, so I can even say the exact date when this discussion was happening. It was, I believe, August 8th, 9th, something like this. He said, you remember, 3 days ago we got a new prime minister. I said, I heard something, because nobody knew who Putin was. It's like it was a totally unknown person. So he says, this guy Vladimir Putin in a year would be our president. I said, you must be kidding. Stop playing tricks on me. It was at that time choice between Lushkov and Primakov, so as mayor of Moscow and the former prime minister, they were the popular guys, and and Putin, even I didn't know who the guy was. That you will see for yourself. I said, okay, so the boss is crazy, but so let's listen what he has to say. And he's saying, and in another year, this website that we are doing at the moment would be the only free media in the country. So why is that? At that time, it was absolutely everything was free. And he said, yes, because you should understand, that's the KGB guy. I talked to him. I know what he's about, what he is up to, and that's what would happen. And I didn't believe him at that time, but he knew. And I actually witnessed, and I started remembering these words about these events with NTV. And at that time, I was doing myself a large media project, which we were supposed to do together with Ted Turner, the founder of CNN, and Ted volunteered to be the mediator between NTV journalists and Kremlin. Got totally screwed up, obviously, because of that. Left Russia, said I will never come back, so my project was ruined as well. And as I said, okay, so I need to go to politics. If it is messing so much with my life, then I need to go there and fix it.
When I was reading about you, and it will be a little bit different kind of part with on our meeting. I have read a lot of extreme opinion about you. Extreme because on one side you will become, on that opinion what I read, like an agent from Ukraine or from US. On the other side, I read that you are 100% a friend of Poland. No, it's not like fight that those two things. But what are you talking about that opinion? And maybe I'm just asking. That's the reason why also Vladimir Putin doesn't like you.
I wouldn't say that he doesn't like me. Why you think that he doesn't like me? I don't.
He fell in love? I don't think so.
No, I think that the reason why he didn't stop me when I was in Russia was actually that because he has a certain respect. Putin is a gangster. He's a mobster. He has a very criminal psychology. And those of you who have good understanding of Russia probably know such words in Russian, понятие, which has been exactly translated as understandings, but it is rules of the game. It's a criminal rules of the game. That's the way how criminal world in Russia operates. They have their own set of unwritten rules. What the criminal lords can and cannot do, and what common guys can and cannot do, and etc. And with Putin, the biggest crime is a betrayal, and the biggest virtue is loyalty, and in general, I would say consistency of a person. So for him, for example, Boris Nemtsov was the guy who was originally helping him to come to power, and was his person in Duma who was pushing the pieces of legislation, economic primary reforms for Putin, and then he kind of switched sides. I don't think that's a correct understanding, but nevertheless, in Putin's eyes, that's the guy who was in his ranks and then switched. For him, Khodorkovsky is the person who received all his wealth because of the proceeds with the state, and then he stood up against the state and said, like, stop the corruption. Who are you? You know, you received all the money from us. That's what Putin told him in public when Khodorkovsky actually started complaining. Or Navalny, Putin was saying, okay, so the guy was like vice governor, he was doing companies, again, he was getting money from the state, and then he said, okay, I am the saint. So no, and I don't think that you are the saint, I think that you are the crook, says Putin. And that's why with them, it's a fight without any rules. With myself, as I said, I was his enemy, adversary from the very beginning. I never was on his side. I, from the very beginning, said that, you know, I think that what he does is wrong. And there are some other people in Russia of the same type. Many of Russian oppositionists, they don't like the former editor-in-chief of Echo Moskvy, Alexei Venediktov. But that's also the guy who was very consistent, and also Putin has a certain respect. And Putin actually even tested it with me. We had our last personal meeting in 2013 when it was a tete-a-tete meeting, and he was asking me what do I want. And at that time I have like nothing to ask at all, and I didn't want to ask him at all, and I said, no, we're still enemies, so I'm not asking you for favors. You know, at that time we were meeting because he stopped the criminal case that his guys opened against me in Skolkovo, and supported one of my ideas to allow opposition people to run at the local elections. I advocated that, you know, open at least something for people, and then, you know, they can get the experience, and they can make certain reforms, they can make people live better. You're saying that they are useless. They say that people like Navalny would never be able to become a mayor of a large city, so let him try. And they opened this, and that's why when we were meeting, the only thing that I wanted to thank him for making this decision. So I thank him, but when he asked me, you know, what do I want, I said I want nothing because we're still enemies. And that, I think, actually played to a certain respect which still exists. So I'm obviously his enemy. He's right now sending assassins against me. But you know, it's a fight, it's a war. So and it's within the rules.
So, but you think that he would like to kill you?
He's trying. He's trying.
He's trying.
He's trying.
So I think people who very like each other are not trying to kill one another.
Why? People, enemies should respect each
You
other.
are not trying to kill him.
I am trying to kill him.
Okay. Okay. I've got one last question.
I want to do it in a legal fashion. I don't think that I would actually have a chance to put him on trial, but we are doing our best again. And the last session of Congress of People's Deputies, we set up the legal framework. We appointed a special prosecutor. We created a group to cooperate with International Criminal Court. We are right now very actively working with the Prosecutor General of Ukraine. So we are doing a lot of legal steps, you know, to put an official criminal proceedings against Putin and against the key war criminals in Russia. So we want actually to showcase how the true court, the true tribunal may happen. But I personally think that most likely he would not survive to that tribunal, because people around him would never allow him to be in our hands and starting to speak. It would be too dangerous for everybody.
Last, I don't know, few days ago, I read your interview in Rzeczpospolita, and you said that there isn't any way to change the power in Russia when the Putin is on the top, and it's not possible to change the situation in democratic way. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing your way. So what do you think could happen, or what has to happen to change that situation in Russia?
You know, that's what everybody always asking me and likes to know, how in particular the regime change would happen. I am very curious as well, but I don't know the answer for this. And I think that it may happen in many different ways. There could be an internal coup. Putin may just fall ill. It can be a military defeat inside Ukraine. It can be some economic disaster. You know, it can be like whatever black swan that may come to the picture. For me, the thing that is most interesting is how to be ready to this moment and how to make sure that in the morning after there will be no new Putin. That's, I think, is a critical moment, and that's what we are working on. I don't want to be the fortune teller to make the decision. I think the most probable way is some like this palace coup and some internal struggle within his inner circle. But really it doesn't matter, because this is not something that we can directly influence. But what would be happening the next morning, we can influence directly. I think that in general, I always like, it's a very risky thing, obviously, you know, to draw historical parallels. But to me, it would be very much like in February 1917. So February 1917 also was a sort of a coup. It was in a very inner circle. But the situation at that time was such that people who were planning this couldn't stick to the power and couldn't control the situation. And in this case, it would be the same. So we just, again, remembering the historical experience, we don't need to make it in October 1917. We need to take it from February, but already establish a normal democratic government without repeating the same mistakes. And unfortunately, all my friends in the opposition, in what they are saying, they tend to repeat what was happening in 1917. They also say, okay, in a year, we will have a new assembly, which would design something. No, it has to be done in advance. Everything has to be ready in advance. There will be no time. After this first stage of the revolution, the events would start unfolding very quickly. And at that time, there was made a mistake that the war continued. We need to stop the war right there, right at that very moment. The Brest peace should not be after the October in already in 1918. It has to happen at that very moment in February.
So you would like to become a Russian president?
I want there would be no presidents.
No president?
I want to be the leader of the transitional period. And I would say like the founding father, one of the founding fathers of the new country. I want to be the architect, and that's what we are doing in the Congress, is designing the new country. But then we want a relatively short transition period, 2 years, and I publicly said many times that after that I would never run in no elections. Because if the architect is designing the system for himself, it's a problem, because then you would try to put things that you would use for. And my actually dream that after that I would be more in the judicial reform, because I think that you shouldn't trust lawyers with the judicial reform. It has to be done from the outside, but that's the most critical part in the Russian culture, which does not exist. And that's in general in our mentality, our fairy tales. The Tsar, in our understanding, is the one who is about justice. So we need to create, to return justice to the country, and it has to be done through judicial, through the rule of law. It has to be designed properly, and who but the architect, the architect of the legal system is able to do it.
Thank you for that part. I would like to change it a little bit to our place on the world and about Ukraine and our position. I think Polish, Ukraine and Russia, because we are near together on that part. Yeah, we are neighbors, we can say. What do you think, or how do you perceive the current situation in Ukraine, and what do you believe are the main causes behind the conflict?
Oh, well, the current situation is very much a stalemate, unfortunately, as all these advances in one direction or another direction there right now, it's like, again, historically, World War I. So it's a fight for 1 or 2 villages where another 10,000 people is dying, but it doesn't mean like nothing strategically. During the recent offensive in Kharkiv, Russian army was losing from 1,000 to 1,500 men a day. For what? For the advancement of 5 kilometers. Which they are right now losing back. So it's absolutely, it makes no sense at all. But whether Ukrainians can achieve any significant breakthrough, I also have a lot of doubts. I think that's actually the most vulnerable point for Russia is Crimea. That's what many people consider that should be like the last liberated piece of land. To me, it should be the first liberated piece of land, because I think that all fortifications around Donbass and then, in Zaporizhia part right now, they are pretty serious. And again, it's very costly in terms of lives, and Ukrainians, obviously, they care a lot about lives to the country, unfortunately, from the Russian military command there, as always. It's like Zhukov, it's like, okay, so who counts? Women would give birth to more. That's like a usual Russian approach. And unfortunately, this approach, by the way, is right now is to a certain degree supported by the population. Because what's happening, why Russians are not rebellious about so many deaths, is because imagine the family in a depressed region, in a rural area, 4 or 5 kids, their average pay a month for the whole family would be $200 to $300 for the whole of the family. That's what usually people earn in the villages. And then they're being offered that, okay, you give your son 1 out of 4, and he is getting $2,000 to $3,000 a month. And if something happens to him, you are receiving $100,000 as a compensation. And this $100,000 for them is something that they never saw in their lives. That's apartments for all of the family. So it's their ticket to a better life, and that's why they're keeping quiet. They are selling their kids for this money. That's as simple as that. And if Putin would have at one moment to start mobilizing people from the large cities, because he is not mobilizing people from Moscow, it's like minuscule. And even when he takes from Moscow, also he is taking from distressed families usually. But then otherwise it's national republics and these depressed remote regions. So, but still, even for them it's a stalemate. But the calculation of Putin is very simple, that right now Trump would come, that Trump would force Ukrainians to negotiate. Even if it would be not Trump, if it would be Biden stays still, there is a war fatigue in the West. That the West would force Ukrainians to negotiate because without arms they wouldn't be able to carry on. So we just need to wait. And all of the Russian elite is also in the same mood. So they were really panicking in the first days of war. Then there was a certain relaxation. Then again there was panic in spring 2023 when there was successful offensives by Ukrainians, and again in Moscow many people were thinking, okay, so now we will lose the war. Then counteroffensive failed, and then again they are very relaxed. So Russian elite saying, we don't need to worry, we just need to stay calm and wait. And everybody reads the same New York Times, where it's written, you stay calm, and it would be back to business as usual. That's the attitude there, and that's actually, I think, right now is the biggest danger for us. That's what we need to change.
So you said that the situation is very complicated now. Complicated, maybe not for everybody, because for Russian, or for some people who is inside that war, it's no, wydaje mi się, że pani tam dostała jakiegoś kaszlu i dlatego wyszła, ale to proszę ewentualnie o sprawdzenie. Będzie można za około 5 minut, so it was just... Okay, so we...
Oh, the brave guy, okay.
Okay, yes. Someone forgot bag, so we have to, so
nobody puts the bombs in such
so
nice bags. Come on.
Poproszę Państwa chwilkę o spokój, żebyśmy wrócili do spotkania. So please tell me, what do you think? How do you see a potential resolution of the conflict? What steps do you believe are necessary for peace?
Well, to me, the only ultimate resolution of the conflict is just the only, there are no options here. The only resolution of the conflict is the regime change in Russia. Because that's where the war started, and that's where it should end. Even suppose ideal case scenario, Ukrainians are so strong militarily that they liberate the whole of Ukrainian territory. So what, the missiles would still be flying, Putin would still get the money from international trade. More, the resentment in the country would grow. We need to retaliate. We need to kick some asses. It would spill to different countries. It would then Lithuania and Poland are next in the line, obviously. And that's why it would not end like this. The only way to end it is the regime change. Then, obviously, there could be different scenarios, and that's what we are saying. So let's plan this. Because at the end of the day, Putin is immortal. So he is not there forever. He is an old guy. So we can say with close to 100% certainty that in 10 years there would be no Putin. But then, you know, we still have risks because we don't know who would be next. And some people could be for better, some people could be for worse. But for me, even those who are for better, if it is within the inner circle, it still is, it's quite bad. And again, historical example, Stalin died, there was a certain struggle, there was like relatively weak guy, Malinkovsky, then was Khrushchev. And so what did Khrushchev do? From one side, he created ottepel. From other side, there was 1956 in Budapest. And after that, there was Caribbean crisis, who could have destroyed the whole world. And that's with nice and great Khrushchev. So he had to be replaced with Brezhnev by the internal coup. And again, there were several moments when the world could have been destroyed. So is this the scenario that we think is a good scenario? I'm not so sure. I think it's more or less of the same. So we need to plan for something better. Yes, you know, we may not be successful, but if there is a way to make something better, let's do it. And actually Putin is giving us the option, because with the war, he is lifting a lot of barriers which were there before February 2022. Before February 2022, we could not build the resistance network inside Russia. Before February 2022, no countries could have supported any revolutionary activities inside Russia. Now they can. Now it's legitimate. So that's what we are calling for all the time.
You said that a lot of people are dying, but from strategic point of view means nothing. But you know, people are losing their family, people are losing their sons, some also daughters. And what do you feel when you read, for example, about Bucha and Irpień? Because when I saw like materials, it was a horrible something that is impossible to think that could happen in 21st century.
Look, my family lost 8 people which were fighting, defending Bucha. So I have friends. My regiment, which I joined at the very beginning of the territorial defense, so we have like different grades of people who are more and less experienced in the military service. Those who were the most experienced, they were sent to defend Gostomel, and also there were casualties there. My relatives, just direct relatives, almost died because they were living in a small place which was not far from Bucha, and that's where fighting was happening. And actually, the only thing that saved them is because it's you know, it's ironic. It's the missile from the Russian airplane. The airplane was hit in the air, so he lost the missile. The missile fell in so my relative's house, hit the roof, but did not explode because it was not engaged, because it was lost from the airplane, but because it was stuck in the roof. Then Russian soldiers didn't come to that house because they were afraid, because they saw a missile stuck in the roof. And that's why they stayed alive, while the neighbors were shot, because some of people from Russian military command decided to make headquarters in that community which they lived, and they just killed everyone.
Thank you, and I know that situation is very difficult when you heard about something what you said. I've got only one question, the last one for me, because I saw some hands up, and I will come to you. It is political. We can say a little bit something for future, or we can say probably things. I have met a lot of, no, maybe not a lot of, some small part of people in Poland who said that we have to, not we should even, we have to join to BRICS. Not many, but some of them believe that it will be much more better situation than in UA or even in our project, which we called. Proszę mi podpowiedzieć, jak jest Trójmorze po angielsku? Three Seas, yes, we can. Three Seas, yeah, that project. What do you think will be the best for our country? You think it will be a good potential for Poland to join the BRICS? What benefit we can bring from that? Or you think it will be one of the worst, maybe not one of the worst, but it will be very bad for our country and for the situation?
Well, some people, as we know from some great books, are making deals with devil. Such people exist. Whether it's good or bad, I think everybody decides for himself. For me, it's obviously impossible. If it would be a normal situation, I always advocated for multilateralism in the foreign policy, and I think that, many alliances are better than one alliance. You can benefit from different arrangements. And I think that there were great arrangements which were pursued by Poles themselves, like Междуморье, for example, in intramarine idea. I think that we will definitely see after the war would end and the regime changes. I think that there would be a union between Poland, Ukraine, Belarus, and Lithuania, and it may expand more. So I think it would be like different alliances. And BRICS could have been an interesting idea, but I think that the direction Putin is driving this alliance to is actually he wants to create an alternative to NATO with BRICS. It started as economic alliance, but I think he's coming as a more geostrategic military alliance. And China is kind of in the back scene of this. So Putin at the front. So Putin is doing all the radical things where Chinese are the beneficiaries but are not taking any risks. It's Putin who is throwing the nuclear threats around. It's Putin who is sending his soldiers to fight. It's Putin who is in direct confrontation with NATO, and Chinese are just watching how this thing would end. And I think that BRICS is something that Putin wants to bring to the table again to be more or less equal with Chinese. So obviously I think it shouldn't be a part of the equation at this moment, but I think that's when this whole madness would be over. I think that the natural flow of things is when we all live in one like broader Northern Alliance, which has a joint Renaissance values behind the whole ethics platform, which is common for our nations. At the end of the day, Russians are not Chinese. We don't share ethics, which is, I'm not criticizing Chinese ethics, but it's just different. So there is a difference between the global South and then the global North, and I think that we are part of the global North. Again, centuries ahead, the planet maybe would be united, and there would be no more boundaries that separate nations. But I think that the first step would be to create a global Northern Alliance, which would be based on the whole like biblical values, and I think that's what we should work on.
Thank you very much. Poproszę Państwa o podniesienie ręki, podejdę do Państwa z pytaniami. Ja będę trzymał, dobra? Chociaż pewnie Panu tam będzie wygodnie.
Mr. Ponomariow, I have a question to you. I'm interested in history, and I'm also reading Russian historics people that are presenting their opinion. And I'm just asking you, quoting them. They are talking like this: Russian people love to be under the power, under strong power. Generally, they are talking like this. In their souls, they are slaves, bondsmen, yeah, slaves. and they want to have somebody in the power that is strong. And I'm wondering how you are describing yourself as a democratic man. How do you see it in the future when you take back the power, what we Polish people like to be, the reality? How do you feel it? How do you see it in the future? How you will do it with the Russian nation that loves strong power and rather believe in fate, because fate is very important, as you are Russian, so you can admit that is right. They believe in fate, they believe in strong power. And how do you think? How can you make it, the Russian, to believe you that you will make Russia a democratic country in the future?
No, let me start from the first part of your question. Some people argue that the whole word Slavs is coming from the word slave. And in this sense, we are in one boat with you guys. But I don't believe in this. I think that in general, social structure of the society is one of the most fluid things that actually exist. And I can have a lot of historical examples in different parts of the world to illustrate. Australia was created by criminals, by outlaws. So, and what? America, part of America were Puritans, part of America were slave owners, very relaxed people, and the slaves. So what? Germany, over the period of the 20th century, how many times changed their social structure dramatically? And right now, so they are the nucleus, the kernel of the European Union. So what? No, it's all changing very rapidly. Obviously, there is such question of traditions. Some nations, they have inclination towards one thing. Some nations, they have inclination towards different things. Actually, I think that many observers, they don't understand those inclinations of Russian people well enough. Because to me, Russians are actually way closer to American mentality than to Western European mentality. Russian people do not have solidarity among themselves. Many people say that, it's collectivism and whatever. I never saw any collectivism in Russia. I saw oppression when people are forced to sit together in one room and vote like one man. That's what I saw many times, but they don't like it. And if you ask them, to help each other, they don't. They're extremely individual. And also because of this tradition, historically for many years, they're extremely skeptical of the state. They are very individualistic of their approach. Ukrainians are anarchic. Russians, they're used to hierarchies, traditionally. But the distrust within the society is what dominates all the social relationship. And in this situation, yes, when you design the political system among a strong leader, they tend to accept it. But if you eliminate the strong leadership within the system, they self-organized vice versa at a very, very low level, like Americans do. And I think that we need to at least try this. That's why I'm saying, that the role of the founding fathers is extremely important. And again, that's the way, exactly the same fashion like how it was done in the United States some 250 years ago. I think that that's what we need to try, and I have all the rights to believe that we will be successful. And to answer the second part of your question, that's what many people ask, so how many Russians right now share your beliefs? How many Russians share beliefs of Bolsheviks in January 1917. They all together in their party didn't have 10,000 people. And it all changed very rapidly. And I think that's exactly the same as, again, what we will see in Russia after the regime change. They just don't know these ideas. They cannot try what they never felt and what they don't know nothing about. Yeah, somebody needs to propose it to them, but to let them make the decision. That's why our transition period is all about that. It's about designing the new system, putting it on a referendum, and this referendum is also a referendum of what republics would like to stay within Russia, and maybe some would like to leave if they don't agree to the rules of the game that are being proposed to them. But if people agree to those rules of the game, they would be very stable.
Idę do kolejnej osoby. Po angielsku.
I don't speak English fluently, but I try to ask. Okay, I have a question.
Speak up a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. One day in one of Polish newspapers, we can find a very interesting information about Putin's father. He was a soldier of Warsaw Army. He was taken by Germans. After that he was member of. He was soldier in one German's troops, and after that he was taken by Soviet. He was in this father. He was in Soviet lager, in Soviet camps in Siberia. In that camps, in that lagers, prisoners attacked the women. Okay, and after that Putin was born in this place, and after that in this during this information in this newspaper, Vladimir Putin, like orphan, found a new family after it was information in this newspaper. And after First World War and after Soviet Revolution, there were a few millions of bezpośrednich in Russia, children without families. Soviet government organized special camps for these children, and these children became officer of secret police. Maybe this information about Putin is only provocation, but I want to ask if you can describe this situation with children from camps for bezpośrednich.
Oh, look, I heard this theory, and I heard even another theory also on where Putin is coming from and his true parents and whatever. I think that about around every person of significance there are always a lot of different myths. And to me, those myths, they matter only in from one point of view, how that affects his policies now, how that affects his mindset and his psychology. And for me, there are only two factors which are really important for his psychology at the moment. Is his late childhood upbringing, where he was, in this judo club, when he was in the yard, and so it was like a street gang. Again, there is this Russian word gopnik, is a street mob, street scum in English. So it's a low-level mobster, and that's who he was in his childhood, and what affects him now to a very large degree, I think, is his homosexuality, what he tries to hide, and that what really affects him, in building people around him, and I think these two factors, they are important. I don't care, what is the sexuality of the person in general, but I think this is the political factor, which explains, certain different things that he is up to. The rest, okay, so maybe we will learn the truth after the regime change, maybe not. Let the historians dig into it.
I will give you for another question my microphone, but you said that Vladimir Putin is homosexualist?
Yes.
Again, I have two questions, in fact. First question is in that I would like to ask you is about economy and money. In fact, Russia and Putin has, in my opinion, and in the opinion of economists from the West, never-ending source of money. One from Chinese people, the other one is from sources that above the land, above the earth, yes, from the inside of earth. Austria, for example, gives every month a couple hundred millions euro per gas, yes, still, all the time. So he has never-ending source of money. And now we have Putin with a lot of money, with factories that he's building all the time. 30% of GDP of Russia is predicted to army. And how do you think, how you practically would like to take back a power from something like this guy that has never-ending source of money? That's the first question. And
only one we can get, sorry.
The last one, the double man. How do you think, how many double mans have Putin, in fact?
I would start from the last. I think that the stories about his doubles are being disseminated by Putin himself. I think that's the way how he tries to protect himself. Because if there are doubles, there is no sense to create an attack on him, because you never know whom you kill. So I think that's the story which is his story. And in general, he regularly spreads some disinformation about him. For example, the information about the relationship with Kabayeva, I think also is a story that has been spread by the Kremlin himself. For the same reason, to disguise other things. But speaking about money, what you're saying as a financial thing is absolutely right, unfortunately. And we are debating all the time with international teams which are responsible for sanctions policies, how to perfect it to the way, so at least to, cut it down. And there were a lot of mistakes made, because they're always implementing like 80% of our recommendation, but the remaining 20% make it absolutely, it reverses the situation to the opposite. Unfortunately, it could be a very powerful tool, but right now it's distressing for Putin and his elites, but they does not persuade him to move in a certain direction, unfortunately. So no, I don't think that economic constraints would be the factor for the regime change, but also I don't think that they would be the factor that would prevent the regime change. Because it really doesn't matter. It would happen in a different plane, because what matters is how much money the elites are getting, not how much money the state budget is getting. How much state budget is getting that reflects into the loyalty of the population, they are being quiet, and the ability to continue the war, to finance the military production and to pay the soldiers and this kind of things. But happiness or unhappiness, loyalty, disloyalty of the elites is about their personal revenues. And their personal revenues is different. And that's very much linked to the way sanctions are structured. And that's where we can achieve a lot of different things. And even now, again, if you mentioned what was happening exactly 1 year ago with Prigozhin's mutiny, nobody stood up to defend Putin. And I don't think that everybody would ever do it. I was predicting it from the very beginning. Many people in the West said, no, how come he is spending so much money, Rosgvardia, 1 million people, they are very well equipped, so it would be a civil war. I said there would be no civil war. Nobody would be present, at least, to confront the attackers. And that's exactly what happened. And then people came and said, oh, you were right. That's a proof of concept. I think it would be the same.
I have to back to that words what you said, because I think a lot of people in Poland, I know that economic thing and is very important, but I think that Putin is gay, what you said. It could be not so popular, because I read a lot of things that about Kabayeva, Alina Kabayeva, yes, and their I don't know, connections, we can say. So this is a popular thing. A lot of people know about it. From where do you know it? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
No, it's not. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, so it will be last question, and we will be finished.
Okay.
Because it's, I think it's, it's very interesting. So can you answer?
Yes. So certain number of people knows, and we know some of the names of his well-known lovers. And his pictures from Siberia with a naked torso are no accident. And Kabayeva, my understanding that it is a disguise. Maybe they had certain relationship, because he had relationships with women for sure. So he is not 100% homosexual, because he has extramarital kids in the beginning of 2000. But I think that he is migrating in that direction to be more and more into boys rather than into girls. Again, that's his question, but I think that he is doing a lot of things to hide it. They started the anti-gay law in Duma, which was introduced by the gay person. They changed the speaker of Russian Duma into a gay person. The current speaker Volodin is a gay person. The chairman of Gazprom is gay. Several key people in his presidential staff are gay. You know, some of them are just openly gay. So it's not a big secret. So I think that it influences a lot his HR policies, and that's a factor of the politics. That's why I brought this. Again, I personally in State Duma was consistent, besides being the only person who voted against the annexation Crimea. I was the only person who did not support the anti-gay law. Also, everybody else was scared for the same reason. But that's what people are scared even talking about, because they're afraid of retaliation.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, one moment, I will finish the meeting. So thank you very much for that meeting. I think it is not enough, because in my head I've got a lot of questions. What about Pussy Riot and a lot of things what we can see that it's only like something for opinion, not for people inside. Drodzy Państwo, naszym dzisiejszym gościem był Ilia Ponomariow, opozycjonista, ale też człowiek, który działa na rzecz, można powiedzieć, nowej Rosji. Poproszę o brawa.
Thank you so much for coming. I am very much sorry that it's so short, but we'll be here in September with the next Congress, and also you feel free to contact me on Facebook. I am trying to answer all the questions, sometimes not immediately, but I'm trying to answer. So I'm pretty open, and let's keep in touch, and thanks for coming.
Dziękujemy bardzo. Poproszę Państwa, żebyście jeszcze sekundeczkę poczekali na miejscach. Thank you very much for meeting. I just want to thank you very much. And I know that Karolina is very asking you, so you can come to Karolina, and we will be finished. I just talk about 3 things technical. So thank you very much for meeting. Drodzy Państwo, którzy oglądacie nas online, serdecznie dziękuję za to, że byliście z nami podczas tej transmisji. Z Państwem się żegnam, zapraszam, żebyście z nami uczestniczyli podczas kolejnych spotkań. Poproszę jeszcze o niewychodzenie, dobrze? Poproszę jeszcze o... No, dziękuję bardzo za uszanowanie. Drodzy Państwo, jeżeli macie ochotę uczestniczyć w naszych spotkaniach, zapraszamy na stronę agerecontra.pl /wydarzenia. Państwu, którzy oglądają nas online, serdecznie dziękuję.